Floyd Mayweather defeated Tenshin Nasukawa by knockout in the first round of their fight on New Year's Eve at Ryzen 14. Obviously, after this fight came out, I had posted a video, and a lot of people online obviously shared the same opinion, stating that they felt this fight was very, very cheesy, likely fixed, and that Tenshin Nasukawa, the shots that had put him down, didn't seem to be hard enough to warrant the reaction that he gave them, and that as a result, he was likely paid off, and this fight wasn't actually a legitimate fight. Obviously, it went by the title of an exhibition. There was question leading in whether exhibition meant that it was going to be an actual fight, but it just wasn't going to count on the record, or whether it meant that it might have just been not an actual fight. In my opinion, following it was that this was not an actual fight. And there's been a lot of arguing online about this. I've gotten into a bit of a back and forth with Grabaka Hitman, who's someone I actually really enjoy following on Twitter. And it's been interesting to kind of go back and forth with him on this. I think the problem that we're having with this discussion is that we're getting caught up in arguments that don't matter, not focusing on what does matter. So the question here that we're trying to solve is, was this fight fixed or not? If you're going down the proper logical way to figure out was this fight fixed or not, what you're going to be looking at is the fight itself. You're going to look at the shots that actually landed, and then arguing whether or not you think those shots warranted the reaction that Tenshin gave, and if the reaction Tenshin gave would lead you to believe that the fight was fixed or not. Now, obviously, there's going to be some interpretation of this, so you could kind of agree on all the outside facts, watch the fight, and two different people can watch it and kind of come up with separate beliefs about what happened, and that's okay. But it's important that if you're going to argue about this, you're actually arguing about the fight itself, arguing about the shots themselves, and not arguing about outside stuff. So I just want to talk about some of the logical fallacies that people are getting caught up in that are detracting from the main point. So again, keep in mind, if you're arguing whether or not this is a conspiracy or whether or not this is a fixed fight, argue based on the actual fight. Don't argue based off of outside things. So what possible outside things could we be talking about? And again, kind of what I'm going to go over right now, this applies to really all Twitter arguments. Obviously, Twitter is not the best place to argue because you have to keep your argument short. And a lot of times people go on different logical fallacies. So you should probably know by now what a logical fallacy is. These are just a few examples. It's just things that people will use in arguments that aren't actually arguments. They kind of detract from an argument, but people like to use them as like cheap ways to win an argument. So just to like kind of go through some examples. So bandwagon you appeared to popularity. This is one that comes up a lot on Twitter. So you might say, well, so many people like this, so therefore they must be right. Or look at your tweet, it has fewer likes than someone else, so therefore you must be wrong. You kind of get the idea here. So to get into the logical fallacies that are going on here, I'll just kind of go through the thread that we had gone through here. So a day after Robin Black put out his initial video, which was pretty clearly of the belief that this was an exhibition and it wasn't a real fight, he said that after further look, it looks like there's more of a chance that maybe Floyd actually was landing some hard shots. He wasn't quite sure, but you can kind of see it either way. My response to that was, Tenshin has no future in kickboxing if his chin is as bad as he acted like it was. Bigger people hit harder, but not to the degree that people like Grabaka are implying. You would never see people sparring outside their weight class in the gym if this represented reality. And I was kind of referring to a tweet that he had put out earlier, just saying, yeah, well, there's a size differential, and that's why Tenshin was having so much trouble. To which Grabaka Hitman responded, he fights a 121 dude against kickboxers, not master boxers with speed and accuracy of Mayweather. It's a completely different sporting game. Have you ever watched any of his fights beside this? He's not an immortal. He was pushed to the limit recently against Rodtang. Okay, so here's the issue. Like I said before, the argument that you want to be having with this is specifically regarding the actual fight. So what shots did Floyd actually land? How much force was behind them? And was Tenshin's response to them reasonable? This argument here of look at the size differential, look at Floyd Mayweather's size, look at Floyd Mayweather's attributes, therefore, and then you kind of have to fill in this blank here. That's not a blank that needs to be filled in, because here's the thing. If this fight was not fixed, and it turns out that Floyd has the size advantage over Tenshin, that still stays true. If the fight was fixed, again, the statement's still true. The statement doesn't change whether or not the fight was fixed or not. It really doesn't have any bearing on it. So while it's maybe like a nice little anecdote to add, oh, hey, there's a size disadvantage here, there is a strength disadvantage here, that doesn't necessarily it doesn't really mean anything for the specific case that we're looking at here. And that's kind of the point I was trying to get at. So then in my response, I said, based on the video, it doesn't look like the shots that dropped him were that powerful compared to what he has seen in other fights. I say that based on Floyd's mechanics, the speed of the shots, and Tenshin's defense as they land. So again, this is me trying to take it back to, look, you're kind of giving me a general information here, but let me point to the actual fight itself. We're trying to look at the specifics here when we're talking about the specific case. This is a response he had later. I'll kind of skip back to this later on. And then he said it doesn't take much power to knock someone's equilibrium off. Let me see if that was the first one. Yeah, it doesn't take much power to knock someone's equilibrium off when landing to the temple behind the ear. Mayweather mastered the lead left hook. It's one of his specialties. He's used it effectively his whole career. As far as size, weight not playing a role in punch power / absorption. Okay. So again, these are just general statements. If Tenshin got run over by a bus today and was on his deathbed and said, actually, it's true, I'm not afraid of anything, I'll tell you I got paid off and here's the paper trail. Everything that he said right here, everything right here is still true. If he got hit by a bus, is on a deathbed and said, no, I promise I actually was trying to win. Again, it's still true. This specific argument here doesn't have any bearing on whether or not the fight that's in question, the fight with Mayweather, if there's something fugazi about it, if there's something cheesy about it. So again, I didn't say it plays no role. That's a straw man. I said it doesn't play as big of a role as you're implying. Floyd having a great lead hook doesn't mean every time it lands, regardless of footwork, it will be destructive if you're 25 pounds smaller than him and partially block it. So then he says, you said it was superficial, whatever you meant by that. I disagree. It plays a huge role, especially when combined with the skill of Floyd. So again, he's talking about Floyd's attributes. He's not talking specifically about this specific hook landed and this specific hook came in clean. It's just in general, Floyd has a good hook. Floyd is bigger. Well, again, like I said before, Floyd having a good hook and Floyd being bigger doesn't mean that every time it lands, regardless of what you see, that it's going to be a hard hit. So that's where I kind of came in here. Actually, when I was searching for a GIF, I searched for basketball flop and I found this flop instead, so I thought it was a good example. And the point that I'm trying to make is that the logic of just saying, hey, this guy's big, this guy has strength, therefore, if there's contact, it must be legit, isn't a fair argument. And that's kind of the point being made here, in that technically, yes, Aaron Rodgers is bigger than Robert Alford. Aaron Rodgers has a very strong right arm. But that doesn't mean that any time Aaron Rodgers makes contact with Robert Alford with that strong right arm, that he's going to make him go flying. In this case, obviously, Robert Alford's acting. This isn't actually him taking a legitimate shot that's knocking him over. Now, could Aaron Rodgers knock him over if he put all his force into it? Probably. Is that the case here? No. Point being, just because something can happen because X guy has X attributes and X guy has X attributes, or Y guy has Y attributes, that doesn't mean that every time something happens, it's because of that. So here you have to look at the specific case. In this specific case, it's obviously a flop, even though Aaron Rodgers is bigger and Aaron Rodgers does generate a lot of power with that arm. You have to look at the specific case, and that's the point I've been making over and over, and I think that's the point that people need to be able to stick to here. And then again, people just kind of got a little bit tied up in that. It was like, yeah, this player's obviously trying to draw a flag from a ref. Come on, dude. Yeah, that's the exact point that I'm trying to make. He's trying to draw a flag from a ref. You looked at the specific case, and you saw something fugazi, and you pointed it out. I'm saying that's what you need to do with this fight here with Floyd and Tenshin. So a good video breakdown that I saw this, and there are a lot of them out there, was by the Weasel. I'll just kind of show a little bit of a clip from here. I recommend that you go to his channel. The video is called What Really Happened, Floyd Mayweather versus Tenshin Nasukawa, and he gives about a 10-minute breakdown on it. So I'll show a clip in here, and then I'll close with that.
Fit in his right hand again. Remember, these are boxing gloves. They're going to need a little bit more space to land on the inside. And Tenshin starts pushing away with his right hand, but his left hand is still up. But Floyd is still able to catch Tenshin behind the glove. And this looks like the biggest punch of the entire fight from Floyd. Now, the reaction to the punch, again, looks a little bit strange because when Floyd connects, look at the way his punch is moving and look at how Tenshin's head moves from the force of Floyd's punch. It's moving from right to left, kind of, right? Tenshin's head is kind of dipped to his left, and it gets pushed up toward his right. But then his head snaps back. It doesn't look like a natural reaction. If someone gives you a shovel hook as you're dipping your head to the left, and it catches you toward the temple, the reaction shouldn't be like you got hit by a jab or hit by a straight right hand. You know what I'm saying? The push of a punch coming up at that angle and arc shouldn't send a guy's head straight back. Now, this can be the reaction of Tenshin. Maybe he got rocked that badly. Maybe he just lost his senses right there and then. But he did try to reach for the ropes, and he kind of flopped over, right? He kind of flipped, rotated as he hit the ground. So, I don't know. It looks a little bit iffy to me. But Tenshin, after that, he started throwing...
All right, and this video goes on from there. I'm not going to show the whole video, but the point being, if you're going to make the argument, this is the type of argument you got to make. You got to make your argument based off the shots that actually landed. If you think, hey, this is what I see and I believe this is a legitimate shot, okay, that's fine. That's a fair argument. That's kind of, at least you're arguing on the correct plane here. If you argue it kind of like what the Weasel did there and say, hey, this doesn't look right, again, that's fine too. You have to argue about the actual shots, not about some general information about the fighters involved.